Welcome to a brand spanking new episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lastia Cahoot and I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-host on this show and in life, Glenn Sheridan. Every episode, we're joined by a special guest who inspires us to consider not only what we think, but how we think and how that thinking impacts our life experience. It's time to get this conscious conversation started as we ask today's guest, who do you think you are? Hello, and welcome to another episode of Who Do You Think You Are? My name is Lastia Cahoot, and I'm your host. And once again, as always, I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Glenn Sheridan.
Hello, everyone.
And today we have another super special guest that we are really excited to have an amazing conscious conversation with. But before we do, I'm going to turn it over to Glenn for some acknowledgement, some recognition, and some appreciation. Honey Bunch?
Yes, thank you. So we are situated on the part of the Coast Salish territories known as the Wasanich territories, and we live close to the Tsartlip Nation, Tsartlip meaning land of maples. So we feel fortunate to be on this land, maybe known better as Vancouver Island, and a little bit outside of that on the mainland. And we appreciate and have gratitude for the generations of people who have looked after this land, the stewards, cherished it, nurtured it, been in contact with it. And we feel gratitude for the people here, past, present, future, and we send them blessings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahoney. Okay, so today's guest is someone that I actually know about this much, but am so excited to get to know better. And I'm just going to read from her bio right here, and then we're going to get into the conversation right away. So our guest today is a transformation expert, intuitive healer, author, and speaker. Over the last 10 years, she has built a successful business, both online and in person, that is designed to help people get clear on their dreams, let go of what is not serving, and supercharge the path towards their dream lives. She works with entrepreneurs and individuals through her thoughtfully created unique courses, as well as one-on-one monthly energetic work to help entrepreneurs thrive in their chosen business. She is the founder of the Academy of Dreams, Dream Quest, and the Meditative Healings Library. She is passionate about using her profound gifts to assist others in awakening their dream life, both personally and professionally. And the reason, there's so many reasons that I am so excited about having this guest on today, but one of the reasons is because this guest is all about energy. And energy is the only thing that is ever going on. We talk about it as God, we talk about it as consciousness, we talk about it as universe, creativity, imagination, love, light, beauty, harmony, order, play, joy, like whatever word you want to use. Everyone and everything is energy. There is nothing that is not energy. And so the more that we can identify as this incredible, amazing, infinite, swirling, whirling, amazing infinitude that is all around us, that is everyone and everything, that is who and what we are, the more we can live our dream lives. So without further ado, knowing that there is so much more to talk about, I would love to introduce today Angela Strank and ask, Angela, who do you think you are?
Hi, thank you so much. First of all, I wanted to acknowledge Glenn's opening. I've never been on a podcast or a radio show where somebody honored the land, and that really just hit home for me. I'm strongly connected to the land and nature, and it was really wonderful to start our talk today with that. To answer your question, it's so funny when you invited me to be a guest and the topic, I remember thinking, wow, that's a loaded question. How do we answer that? Because there's so many layers to that answer. Yeah. And to what we are and who we are. In the small picture, I talk with people a lot about how there's a small picture of life and then there's a big picture of life, and they're interacting together all the time. And the small picture is our individual lives and the beliefs that we hold and the experiences we have and how we're navigating the world. And it's beautiful in and of itself, and it's powerful, and it's what makes us unique. But the big picture is that we are all one, and we are interconnected, and we're not separate from each other. And so when you say, who do I think I am? I think I'm both of those things. I am a human who's had all these life experiences that have brought me to where I am today, doing the work that I'm doing. And every single one of those experiences contributed to this expansion. But I do not forget that I'm part of something much larger than myself. And that's what connects you and me and the earth and the land and the animals and all the plants and all the stars and galaxies and everything that's all in physical form, non-physical form, it's all connected. So my answer is I'm all of that, all of that. And it's what makes life really rich and fulfilling.
That's an amazing answer. That's a beautiful answer. That's such a profound answer. And you know, it strikes me that kind of no matter who we talk to, there's always a slightly different way to look at pretty much the same thing that is being said, that there is our individualized experience, and then there is what's behind that, and you know, the oneness, the allness that you were talking about. And I really like the way that you just languaged it between small picture and big picture. I am in my final year of ministerial studies, studying to become a New Thought minister, and the foundational philosophy that we are grounded in, but that is our springboard. Sorry, our cat is on the windowsill and something has attracted her attention outside. She's like totally stretched. She might show up in the show at some point. Anyway, is that there's the relative and the absolute, but that ultimately everything is the absolute. There's no separation. It's just our individualized experience of that allness. And the more we open up to and identify as that allness, as that absolute, whether you want to call it energy, creativity, God, source, universe, whatever it is that works for you, the more you open up to it, then the more we allow ourselves to experience it. And the more we experience it, the more we open up to it. And it's just this incredible, amazing spiral of opening and expansion. And the fact that you brought in the land and the stars and you and our experiences and you know, everyone and everything, it just sounds like it's so relatable, what you do. And so I can see why people would gravitate towards you. And I have been in one of your online meditations, and I have listened to some of the ones that you have on YouTube. And there is a movement of energy that happens. There is an expansion that happens. There is interconnectivity and this feeling of just being at one with everyone and everything that's participating, and then at one with whatever it is that you want to call it on a grander scale. So I'm so excited that this is how our conversation is starting. So thank you. So is there anything that you would like to talk about in terms of the word? I'm gonna go with the word rich, because for some people, rich, it can mean many, many things. And for some people, it can be a bit of a charged word. It can be about money that maybe they don't have, about the lives that wealthy people live that they're not living. It can be applied to every aspect of life, not just money. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on the word rich and why it seems to be such an integral element of what it is that you offer in terms of your meditations and the work that you do and supporting people as they open up to their dream lives. Whoops.
Oh, well, that's a great question. As you know, because you've attended some of my meditations, I talk about being energy rich.
Yep.
And to me, you were talking earlier about, you know, the God or the consciousness or the source. I call it the magic, that element of energy that uplifts us and inspires us. And it just feels magical, it makes us feel alive. And when I talk about being rich, I'm talking about that presence, that energy that flows through us, where we all of a sudden go from our small, limited beliefs and we feel really expanded. And the work that I do, my mission, my intention always is to help people expand, help people get out of those limiting beliefs, because those limiting beliefs keep us small. And energy rich to me is about really embracing the expansion that we have a divine right to experience. Meaning, I know some people, for example, when life is going really well, they have a certain level of expansion and they feel really good. And then there's like experiences that happen where we get traumatized, or, something happens in our life and all of a sudden our energy collapses. And that ability to be expanded is not lost. It's just, for whatever reason, we need to self-contain and disconnect, because our subconscious mind feels that that's a safer route for us. And what I'm doing is helping people wherever they're at, meeting them wherever they're at, to expand to the level that they're at. The farther we go into consciousness, the farther we go into really letting go of limiting beliefs, the more expansive we become. So you look at some of the biggest gurus in the world, meaning those people that are on the planet that are fully expansive, and you're in the presence and you're healing just being around them. Mm-hmm. They are able to maintain that expansion no matter what's going on in the world around them. And so my job when I'm working with people, I'm trying to get into that place of how can I help them re-expand to where they're comfortable and staying there no matter what's going on in the world around us. So energy rich to me is a really great word. It's a really inclusive, expansive opening to what we've already grown to experience. And then there's endless potential to where we can expand to from there. But I understand what you're saying, that you say the word rich to some people and they have a lot of limiting beliefs around money and who deserves it, who doesn't deserve it. And having that kind of wealth, again, you have to hold a certain amount of energy expansion to be able to even have that kind of wealth and to be rich that way. But for some people, that's not the important part. It's more I want to be energy rich in my life, where I feel fulfilled, I feel connected, I feel alive. I have horses and I want to really, really be present with them and allow them to have their fullest expression and feel safe to do that. And there to be a synergy that happens between us. To me, that's what energy rich is that deep connection, that expansion, that being fully present. But it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to have your own relationship with the word rich. And I hope for you, whoever's listening to this, that you have a wonderful relationship with rich, because it's our divine right to be fully expanded, to be in a place where we're receiving all of the abundance that we need in every moment that we need it, and to have enough that we can actually spread it out and share it with the world. And so if you're having some struggles with that word, I invite you just to look at that. Where is that coming from? Is that really a true reflection of who I am? Because who I am is abundant. Who I am is worthy. Who I am is a magnificent human being walking this planet, and expansive.
You're so talking our language. Honey Bunch, is there something that you want to ask or say?
Well, just for that word, like it's a loaded word, as many are, because those words that people react to because they're polarizing or whatever, they find them polarizing. It's almost like they've been condensed from their true form. Because, like, to me, the word, when I'm reading this kind of stuff and someone talks about an enriching experience, that's the true meaning of it. It's ongoing. It's enriching to be in this presence of this person, or to be like in nature and just really being there. It's that, like, it's the true essence of that that experience for that word, but it's been condensed. It's almost like slang, and it's been like stuck in a little box, like rich meaning well, you're either this or you don't have it. So too bad for you. Right. So anyway, that was just what struck me on that work. But
That's a fascinating way of putting it, because enriching means I am rich and having that experience, right? And so you're right. I think that is the true intention of the experience, is to be one with that experience and see it as an experience, but still not a reflection of who you are.
yeah, like not tied to your worth, but it's almost like it's an opportunity to restate like who you are, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So I have a question. There's so much here to just sort of, different directions to go in. And I guess I want to hear about horses. I want to hear about your horses, and because that is something that hasn't come up necessarily in the meditations. On Facebook every now and then I see a picture of you with, I don't know if you have one or more of them. But what is it what is the connection that you have? Why are horses such an integral aspect of your life experience right now?
Well, first of all, horses are the biggest love of my life,
Mm.
more so than my work. And anybody who knows me knows that I am super passionate about the work that I'm here doing on with people. Horses, grew up with horses. I was born into a home that had horses. My mom is horse crazy. Her dad was horse crazy. I mean, I come by it naturally. I started riding when I was 2 years old. Kid you not, my mom and dad would put me on horses at 2. And of course, they had to lead the horse around because I could barely sit up on it myself. When I was 4 years old, I started competing in little egg and spoon. That's when you have an egg on a spoon. You have to walk around with your horse by yourself and not lose the egg, right? And so when I was growing up, I was the youngest of 4 by quite a few years. So my sister was 8 years older than me, and she was into horses as well and riding. And as I was going on, 5, 6, 7 years old, I was starting to watch my sister go on and do these amazing things with horses, jumping and English riding. And I was constantly being held back because of my age, even though in my mind I could do exactly what she could do. But obviously I was too small and I couldn't. So when I was 10 years old, I actually quit riding because I was so frustrated with being held back. And still had horses at our house, and my sister went on to be an incredible rider. And my mom always would say I was a natural rider, didn't have to work at it very much, but I quit. My sister was something that she had to really work at. She became an exceptional rider. Anyways, so I quit when I was 10, and when I was about 44, 45, I felt really empty, I guess, because I had no real passion outside of work. I mean, I was working 7 days a week, and outside of work, I felt very empty. And I decided to get back into riding. And when I did, this time I started with just groundwork, and I rescued a horse. And so when you ask me what is it about horses, to me, they're the most magical beings on the planet. My current horse, Elvis, is my heart horse. I would say he's my soulmate. And horses have a way of really making sure that you live presently, because you can't interact with a horse and not be present. It's unsafe. They're fight or flight animals. They're prey animals. They can be completely calm in one moment, and the next moment they're fleeing. And they're big animals. My horse is 17 and a half pounds, so he's a 1,500-pound animal. And I can't explain to you the passion that I have, other than I think we all come here with one particular passion that we really resonate with. And to me, it's horses. It's animals in general. I'm crazy about animals. I'm crazy about the land. But there is something very magical about horses for me. And I can be off for whatever reason, and I'll go to the barn, and within 5 minutes of interacting with my horse, I am recentered, regrounded, completely focused, open, expanded. And because he demands that of me. And to me, it's such a beautiful gift. And I think it's a true honor to be able to ride a horse and to get on their back, because they, it's interesting with a horse, their predator would be a cougar or a bear, but cougar especially. And, one of the things that a cougar will do when it's going after its prey is it will jump on his back. So a horse has to be what we call broken from that fight or flight of something being on its back. And what a gift and an honor for us to be able to get on their backs when it goes against all their instincts to have something on their backs. And that's what's magical about horses, is they are willing to give up their instincts and their beliefs if you create a space for them that is safe and is loving and is compassionate and is understanding. So to me, I wouldn't be who I am without horses in my life. And I don't think I would be able to do the work that I do on the level that I do without my horse, because he gives back to me in a way that refreshes me and recharges me so that I can do the work that I'm doing.
Wow. Okay, can I go, honey bunch? Like you were okay. All right, that was amazing. I'm so glad I asked that question. I mean, there were two things that really stood out there for me. One is that you said when you're in relationship with a horse, you must be present. And that for me is the thing that is constant work for us as people, as beings, is to be present and not be continually pulled out, into thinking about, oh, this happened in the past, or oh, this is my experience, so this is what's going to happen again, or be worrying about something that hasn't even happened in the future. So much of our time can be spent away, our attention elsewhere rather than being fully present. And it's only when we're fully present to the now moment that we can really, really focus our energy consciously and move forward in life in a way that is more intentional. So that was one thing that stood out, was the idea of being very, very present. And then the other one, this whole notion, and I've heard this many, many times, but I have 2 horse riding experiences in my life, and otherwise I haven't spent much time around horses at all. But I've heard about a horse needing to be broken before it can be ridden. And the way you just talked about it, about how they're willing to give up, go against their instinctive grain, their inherent grain, their natural, grain, to allow you to like have this bond, to have this relationship with a person or whomever, ends up being on their back that isn't a predator. To me, the word that came up was acquiesce. And that, I think, is just such an incredible, there's a grace to that. It's beyond surrender, because surrender is important. Surrender is opening up to allow whatever it is that is coming through or wants to come through. But acquiesce is beyond that, because acquiesce, there's struggle, there's challenge, there's turmoil involved in that. And just to sort of give yourself over to, without losing yourself in the process, like discovering something different, maybe something more profound, maybe something better, maybe something that, I don't know from the horse's perspective, but if not broken, then they wouldn't be able to have the relationship with you, with a rider, with, someone who they end up having a relationship in that way with, had that breaking. And it's, to me, it doesn't sound like a spirit per se. It's another aspect of the horse that gets opened up, that was not necessarily, it was available, it was there, but it wasn't part of their day-to-day sort of thing. And so to me, that just sounds so incredibly profound and so beautiful, and so much of a parallel to what it is that we are going through, because I believe that all of us are somewhere along our journey, and whether it is we're doing more conscious work, whether we're just kind of going with the flow, this whole incredible, amazing experience that we are having as spiritual beings, as spiritual beings, just kind of filtering through these original, unique human expressions. All of it is to experience more, to, you use the word expansion, which I love, is to expand more, to fulfill this energy, this consciousness, this incredible, amazing spirit, to fulfill itself more through us. And so there's I feel like we have these breaking apart, constantly, as we break through our comfort zones of, all the best thinking and the experiences and everything that has gotten us to where we are now in this moment. But it can only, be a comfort zone for so long. It can only, that energy that is always flowing, that is always expanding, can only be contained for so long until it has to, break out of that comfort zone to become fuller and more expressed. And then eventually we get to another level, and then there's another, comfort zone or shell or container or vessel or whatever that needs to be, pushed through to express ourselves even more fully. And so I don't know if that's how you feel, about what it's like to break a horse so that it can be ridden and to have a different relationship with the horse. But that's what I picked up from what you were saying. And it just sounded so incredibly beautiful and profound.
Well, it's interesting because it's not a one-time thing.
Mm.
So uh, every time that I interact, I can't speak for other riders, but for myself, every time I interact with my horse, I'm a massage therapist by training. I was a massage therapist for 23 years. And, I understand the concept of warming up tissues and stretching and lengthening and then strengthening when that lengthening has occurred and all that. And there's always the small picture. So there's that element with my horse. But the other element is so when I get on my horse, initially he's stiff, he's holding himself tight because the instinct's there. And he has to choose because of what I'm offering to release. And so what we're listening for and what we're becoming aware of is, when do they drop their head? When do they take that breath? You can hear them, they blow out when they're releasing. And he has to make that choice every day. And sometimes I will lunge him first, not to get the hot off him or anything like that, but because I'm looking, where is he releasing? Where is he releasing? Where is he letting go? And if he's not able to do that day for whatever reason, he's still an animal. He still has his own experiences and expansions of him coming into his greatness, right? And so sometimes, I can just see, today's not the day to get on him. He needs to work through whatever this is because he has his own experience. But going back to that expansion, like every time I get on him, yes, the muscles are, a little bit stiffer because he's a big horse. He's almost 14, but it's more than that. It's more of he has to make that choice. Is he going to relax into having me on his back and we're going to have this experience together? And with my guy, I mean, it's wonderful. Within like seconds, he's dropping his head and he's blowing. And I think it's because we have such an incredible connection. And I have a thing with myself. I never, ever get on my horse when I'm not feeling right, because I don't think it's fair to have him deal with my stuff as well.
Yeah.
I may interact with him on the ground and do some lunging or something like that, but that's an agreement I have with myself and I have with Elvis. So it's an interesting thing because it's not a one-time breaking. It's every time you get on a horse, you have to allow them to give you permission to be there, and then they release by dropping their head. They do the blowing, and that's their way of letting us know, I'm here and I'm connected with you, and this is okay. So just like us, our expansion is not a one-time expansion. We're expanding, we're collapsing, we're expanding, we're collapsing. And every time we expand a little bit more, we're breaking those limitations, those barriers down so that we can go even farther. And the same thing is with a horse. Their training gets more expansive, more expansive, more expansive. And it's a dance between what's going on with him and where is he being limited, and what's going on with me and where am I being limited. And that's what I mean by being present. Like there's incredible presence that has to happen for us to be connected in that dance.
I love
That was
this.
beautiful.
It's just so amazing.
I have just a comment and question. I like pretty much all of my horse understanding comes from I've read this series of mystery type novels by C.J. Box. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but
No.
where the main character is a game warden from Wyoming. So because of the immense size of his, his territory, he has to go out on horseback trails, like a lot of the time. So, but he's not a person who grew up with horses, but his wife is. So he's sort of learning as he goes, and his daughters have sort of helped him understand more about horses. And because he'd rather be in his SUV truck or whatever, right? But so the stuff about like them being herd animals and being, a little bit skittish, if they, like you said, if they're out, they're in the woods and there's like potential, like they smell bear or a cougar or something, even like um a quick shift in the wind will change the trees or whatever, and they're like, okay, what's going on, so
Yeah.
but the other thing I learned is about them being like having a pecking order when there's a group of them. And I was wondering about your like, so if you're interacting on that intimate level and you're just present and they are accepting you, and they know you accept them, whatever. So is there like, are you part of that pecking order? Are you part of that, like, hey, it's time for you to listen to me right now? Or like, how does that work?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes, I have to be part of that. I am part of my horse's herd for sure. As is every handler. They're part of the herd. Where they are in that herd depends on their confidence level. So a horse will gain its confidence as a horse in your presence if you're the lead. But they are sensitive beings, sensitive beings. And so I believe that they like leaders that are gentle versus leaders that are forceful, because that just kicks in their fight or flight. Then they're just responding out of fear to you versus being led by you, right? And so that's another thing that's so magical about horses is they teach you to be confident, because otherwise they're going to be the lead and they're big. My horse is 1,500 pounds. If he decides that he's going to lead me, I'm 140 pounds. It's going to be a bit of a different story, right? And so, yeah, absolutely. Any horse that you're interacting with will decide in its like almost instantly where you are, and it may challenge you. They talk about this with horses all the time, is it constantly challenge you because they want to make sure that, okay, you say you're the lead, you're going to be the lead horse for me. Are you sure about that? Because that gives them confidence, right? And so for me, when I'm interacting with my horse, I'm no great rider or anything like that. But what I am very strong in is that I'm consistent. I'm consistently steady. I'm consistently calm. And that creates incredible trust for my horse. And that is why this 1,500-pound animal 100% trusts me and gives me that vulnerability that he is. And I can take him in any situation, and I just have to talk to him in a gentle way, like, you're okay, bud, I got this, you're okay. And he just knows, because I don't get rattled, that he doesn't have to get rattled. Now, take that flip side, somebody who doesn't have any confidence around horses, and they get rattled by this and rattled by that, well, the horse will quickly decide, you're not leading me, because you're not safe place for them, right? And so, yeah, you are part of their herd. And for me, I am the head leader of that herd because of the way that I interact with Elvis. And he understands on a level of a horse level that, he is in my care. He understands that he requires me to feed him and make sure he's got water and he has a safe place. And that when I take him out of his stall and his paddock, that I'm not going to cause harm to him. I'm not going to put him in a situation where he's unsafe. It's a real synergy that happens. And as a result, I feel safe with my horse because I know he gives me that same respect back. He will do anything to keep me safe. Like I've been in situations where, there's still fight or flight animals where he's spooked because something that was very relevant spooked him from behind. And I was standing right beside him. I was on his left, and he spooked, and he went straight up in the air. He morphed his body all the way around me and then galloped away. And he didn't even touch a hair of my body. And that's the kind of safety that I feel with my horse. And he knows that I would do the same thing for him. So that's not something that happens overnight. It happens with time, that level of trust and respect. Yeah.
So, and one other thing, as you're explaining this, it's making me think of human beings as animals in their development. Like, I think we're sort of family first. This is where we belong, and there's sort of a hierarchy there because the elders and the parents are the caregivers for the children, and then you grow up and you sort of learn your lessons. But get outside of that, and you're in the tribal kind of grouping, and then you have to learn those lessons about who is it good to follow, and then when is it time for me to lead, and who's these younger ones are my responsibility. And there's like an instinct there. I think I've had that, even though I'm the youngest of like 7 kids. I've had that with like younger cousins and friends where you're sort of in quick danger and you just kind of grab them and run, right? So like do you sort of, you've obviously had a lot of interaction with human beings as well. Do you get that sense that there's maybe that's a little bit missing from current society because we've been kind of forced into these little bubbles, like just live on your own, like you don't need other people, you can be in your silo, be happy forever, just doing what you like doing, whatever. But then it takes away that natural instinct to just mingle, so do you ever think about that, just in terms of like there's an equivalent that you just described in the horses thing with human beings, that we've kind of blocked it a bit, and we're kind of lacking there because of that?
Yeah, so what you're talking about, you were saying about how, when we first grow up as our base family, right? And that's the root chakra. That's our ability to have that connection to our ancestors, our family core. And as long as that is still somewhat healthy, that root chakra would be nice and healthy. Our sacral chakra, which is at the navel level, is our ability to interact with others. So outside of that basic, family unit. And so I think a lot of what's happened is this, everything flows in 2 directions, right? So the more we isolate ourselves, the more that sacral chakra is going to become deficient and problematic, and our ability to have social etiquette and our ability to have social understanding, like that person's struggling, let's reach out and connect with them, starts to go away. And vice versa. You can have a nice, healthy sacral chakra, and somebody comes along and devastates you in your friendship level, and then all of a sudden that starts shutting down, and it shuts down that sacral chakra. So as we expand and as we grow and we become bigger than our life experiences, that stuff starts opening up. We actually start rising up the chakras and going into more the heart center place, and that's where we understand that we're connected to all, and those interactions are really powerful. So people are at different levels in that growth and that expansion. And wherever anybody is, it's valid. It's really, really important in your growth process to understand whatever you're going through. And so, yeah, I don't think it's lost. I just think that people are at different levels in their ability to expand past their family unit into their friend units, and then it goes into that tribal, like who's my community, and then it goes out into part of that bigger all is one aspect. Well, that's really, really, really expansive, right? It's all there for all of us and available to us at any time, but certain life experiences will shut people down, and those experiences are usually pretty valid. They're painful, they're difficult, they're challenging, but they can be healed so that we can become in that place of feeling more connected. The pandemic was really hard for a lot of people because of that isolation. Isolation for humans in general is very, very unhealthy. It's same with animals. You see animals that are isolated in kennels and cages, and it does something to the psyche. We are human beings that need that kind of herd and mentality, but the level of how much we want to interact with the world has a lot to do with our expansion level. So some people, those are people who are on the stages and talking to millions of people, they have expanded to a certain level that's their community, that's their tribe, and they can hold that space, right? Where there's some people that are at home and their world has gotten so small, and that's where they're comfortable with the energy. That's where they feel safe, that they can manage that energy. And it can be shifted. It can be, just have to look at what's causing us to feel unsafe in the world, that we have to disconnect.
Very cool.
So I'm so glad that you went in that direction, because you mentioned the word safety a couple of times. And so I was going to ask, can you start talking about chakras? Because there was a video that you did, like a 10-ish minute meditation on, I think it was the root chakras, that you did a few weeks ago, that's posted on YouTube, that I think anyone can listen to, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. And that's such an amazing meditation. And so you're focusing on the root chakra. And I think there were S words. You were talking about safety, security, stability, maybe a fourth one?
Safety, security, stability, and sustainability.
Sustainability, that's it.
Yeah.
And so so it's a really, really good one. And Angela's going to let us know how you can get in touch with her, and how you can, see more of what it is that she does on the various platforms that she's on a little later in the show. But can you talk to us about what is a chakra? Because not everybody who's listening will know, and not everybody who's listening will necessarily be familiar with energy, chakra, the work, what the lower chakras represent. Then there's the heart one, and then there's the upper ones, and how what's the relationship? So can you just sort of explain what chakras are, and then I'll ask more questions.
Yeah, no problem. Well, it's funny how life always goes back in full circle. So this goes back to the beginning when you said everything is energy. Everything is energy. We are energy beings in a physical body with a consciousness, and it all interconnects and intermixes. And so our chakra system, there's 7 physical chakras. So these are main chakras that are in the physical body, but there's chakras outside the body. And there's micro chakras, and there's the meridians and your acupressure points. And then you have your energy field, which is the field of energy around you. But it all intermixes and interconnects. The chakras themselves are important because they serve certain tissue structures and cells. So those are the endocrine glands, the organs, they serve certain joints, and the consciousness that's held within those structures. So the root chakra is an energy vortex of energy at the base of the spine, and it is looking after our very core physical needs. So, making sure you have your roof over your head, the food to eat, your family connection, our very basic needs are met by that root chakra. And it's what grounds us and makes us connected, keeps us connected to the earth. And the animals and the plants and all that. And then as you go up the body, there's more different chakras, and they all have a certain focus and purpose. So our sacral chakra is at the navel level, and it serves our sensuality, sexuality, but also more importantly, our how we relate to the world. So our connections to our food, our connection to other people, feeling like we belong, all that stuff is all in that sacral chakra. And these are our base, root chakra, and sacral chakra. These are our lower chakras that help us have our very physical experience here in life. The solar plexus is our power center. And as we rise up in the chakras, they're serving, again, certain structures, tissues, cells, and organs. But the consciousness of them is rising above that just very basic level of living and into that more expanded experience of unconditional love and bliss and joy and happiness as we rise up. They're incredibly powerful, whether we believe they exist or not. They're there. They've been scientifically proven, and they spin and they hold a certain amount of energy. And the more we become expanded, more conscious we become, they get richer, they get fuller, they get more expansive. And when I'm working with people, I can see chakras, I can see where there's limitations. And often when a chakra is really collapsed and shut down and not operating very well, there's usually some kind of trauma that's associated with that chakra that is just keeping it from expanding. Again, it comes back to safety. Even in those higher chakras, when you're really opening up to, getting really connected to all, there's still, if I'll say you're out in the world and you're doing a talk and something happens in that talk, safety is the most imperative piece to feel that expansive. And so if that gets challenged, and all of a sudden those higher chakras will start to shut down. And it's all intended just to keep us safe, to keep us alive. It's all directed by the subconscious mind, which is a part of the consciousness that drives our system, part of the consciousness that knows the past, knows the present, knows the future. It knows all that we're here to grow through and expand to. It understands every experience that we have and what has limited us, what has helped us move forward. It's a powerful, powerful machine. It's estimated to be 2 to 3 million times more powerful than our conscious mind. And so that subconscious mind is regulating all these chakras, and that's what makes us so unique and complex. And I mean, we'll never fully understand our consciousness and its capabilities in this human container. We're not meant to, but the chakras are an important part in our expansion. They're an important part of our awakening. They're hugely part of holding consciousness of who we are, what our experiences are, where we're going, and what our evolution's about. And so I'm passionate about the chakras. I actually wrote a book on chakras, finished the book, but haven't published it. Again, just waiting for the right connection, the right time for that to happen. But I believe in them so much, and their power, and utilizing that power to accelerate our growth and our expansion. So I mean, we could talk for hours about chakras. They're complex, they're amazing. They are hidden gems of where we can actually open up different levels of our consciousness to really live that magnificent life that we're here to live when we're ready.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for that. And so, I mean, I have some questions. The one question is, knowing that there's sort of like the lower 3 chakras are sort of more connected to our physical experience, to the elements that you were talking about, like the animals, the earth, our physical experience of, maybe eating and how we experience our body. And then the heart that sort of connects, the lower and the upper, and then the upper being more about expansion and just really, really sort of, at least my understanding is, identifying more and more and more and opening up to the infinitude of who we are, the infinite potentiality, that incredible, amazing, pure essence, that is just pure energy, that is who and what we are. When there are blockages, can there be blockages in more than one place? And can you be vibrating, like can one be clear, higher up, if you are stuck or clogged or somehow jammed below?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, yes. It's interesting. I've been doing this stuff for a long time, over 20 years, and I'll connect with somebody and I can see that their upper chakras are wide open, but their lower chakras are completely congested and closed down. And those are the people who have a real struggle with manifesting, because they can download the energy, they can get into that infinite space and connectivity, but as the energy comes down, because it has to come down to that root chakra in order to manifest. Like, it's a cycle, right? So we connect to the earth and we rise up and connect to the higher energies, but the same happens where we bring that energy down. But if it can't get down to that base chakra, that root chakra, then the ability to manifest in physical form, meaning manifest the job we want, manifest the relationship we want, manifest the finances we want, all that stuff becomes a struggle, because that higher energy, it's coming through, but it's being blocked somewhere. And when somebody's fully awakened, all the chakras are wide open, all of them are expanded, and there's not a lot of differentiation between the two levels. There's just a flow that happens. And so I when I'm working with people and I can see that they have the ability to connect into those higher realms, but in the physical realm, they're having a hard time manifesting. That's when I get excited. It's like, okay, we don't need to focus here anymore because you have that connection and that expansion, and your imagination is off the charts, and you can go into different visuals, and your ability to do that is just super expansive. We need to look down in the lower chakras. Why are those shut down that they can't receive that energy? And then there's the other people who are root chakras, sacral chakras, solar power, solar plexus are super wide open, expanded. They are ability to create, manifest here in this physical realm are fantastic. You ask them to visualize something and it's completely shut off. They don't have that imagination available to them. They can't think outside of the physical realm. Again, that's just the energy above is closed off, but the lower energy is going. And I think when we become whole and complete, we have a nice flow between the two, and that will just continue to expand as long as we don't have any experiences that traumatize or shut down either the higher chakras or the lower chakras. So that was a great question, because I see that a lot.
And, you know, as you answered that, the first one makes more sense to me than the other one, where someone could be very open and the energy could be flowing smoothly in the lower chakras, but it's the upper chakras that are somehow blocked or clogged or stuck or whatever. What would that look like? And knowing that it could, you know, just express in a million different ways, but how could someone, excuse me, how could someone be, I guess, you know, feel super grounded and connected in, you know, their body, in their relationships with the people in their lives, with the earth, with, you know, any other living beings or whatever, and however they experience their body, you know, I guess whether it's through the work that they do, how they are at home, with their physical health, sexuality, if all of that is flowing smoothly and in order and everything, then what is it that you know, not being able to sort of expand or open up to, you know, a greater level of consciousness, what does that look like, or what could that look like?
Well, first of all, we're all very different, and we're all here having different experiences. So there's no black and white, and there's no like, well, it would look like this. But for some people, you know, there's the thought leaders in the world, there are the doers in the world, and then there's, you know, so we need both. We need the thought leaders, people who are going out and pushing expansion and consciousness and really on the cutting edge, right? Mm. But we also need the people on the ground, the workers, you know, that are doing the normal everyday jobs, because that's what this planet's about, is that 3D realm, right? And so some people are really content on just being at the level where they got their family, they got their job, they go home, and they are perfect. I celebrate those kind of people, because they're here sustaining being humans on this planet in the 3D realm, right? And so those upper chakras may not be open because they're not desiring that. They're not desiring that bigger question. What's life about? Where can we take this? Where is that expansion? It's just not in the realm of their consciousness, because that's not what they're here to do. They're here to hold space and anchor humanity in doing the everyday stuff. And I think their job is just as important as the thought leaders that are out pushing consciousness and expanding and seeing what is available. So it's not necessarily that something's broken. It's just that might be their purpose here, is just to be and hold space. And then, but it could be that, say they had religion early on in childhood, and something happened in that religious relationship where, you know, something happened with a priest, or something happened in, you know, a scripture or something that caused that individual shut down. Well, then that's something very different. They've shut down out of pain, out of suffering, out of trauma. Then it would show up as a discordance in those higher chakras. So I guess to answer your question is that it really depends on the source as to why their chakras are open or not. For some people, it's just this is what they're here to do: anchor, hold space, and I think that their role is just as important as the thought leaders of the world that are pushing consciousness.
Okay. So now next question is, based on that, knowing that energy is always evolving, it's always moving, it's always changing and morphing and just flowing in through and as everything, and that expansion is always taking place, is it possible, and I mean, whenever whenever a question starts with is it possible, for me the automatic answer is yes, and then you don't even have to expand, because it's is it possible is just the question. But expanding on is it possible for someone who is really strongly firmly rooted in their lower chakras but not in their higher upper chakras, is it possible, if you're looking at it from the perspective, like you just said, about it's their purpose, it's perhaps their reason sort of for being, this way in this lifetime, could that change? Or would that be going against the grain? Would that be going against their inherent nature? Would that be just, would it just be, almost simplifying it, more trouble than it's worth, because there is an inherent nature, and if they go against it, then they're not living their authentic self? Does that make sense, that question?
It does, and you ask very loaded questions. So, yes, it's possible as soon as an individual asks the right question.
Mm.
If that individual in their journey asks, is there more to life than this? As an example, then the answer will come. The expansion will come. But I believe that everything happens for a reason, meaning that person wouldn't ask that question if it wasn't aligned for them to have that experience in this lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Some people never ask those deeper questions. And that's, again, their purpose, their role. Can it change? Can they start asking the deep questions? Yes. In a second. All you have to do is ask a question. And then there's an evolution of energy that starts swelling to bring the answer.
Yeah.
And that's what thought leaders do. They're constantly asking questions. That's what these, huge entrepreneurs in the world are doing. They're asking questions. When that happens, expansion has to happen, because a rush of energy comes in to answer the question.
Yeah.
And as kids, we ask questions like crazy as kids.
Yeah.
That's what we do, right? And so something happens as we mature sometimes to some individuals where they stop asking questions.
Yeah. When I was in my advanced consciousness studies class a few years ago, which is what my book ended up being the final assignment for, our class ended up, the unofficial motto, which is now the official motto, is question everything. So, where on some level, even though we came in as open minds and open hearts and just open to the experience, there was still this amount of, we're coming in with a certain amount of answers and expertise and knowledge and just, what has gotten us to where we are now. And within 5 minutes of that class, it was just like foundation exploded to smithereens. We're just now going to live in the question and not look for answers anymore. Just keep asking questions. Because questions are what keeps the conversation going. Questions are what prompts the exploration. Questions are what keeps the expansion going. I mean, the expansion is there all the time, but to participate in it actively and consciously, there may be answers for a minute. There may be answers that help us to make sense of things, as we grow, as we expand. But ultimately, it just, to live in the question and in the mystery of life and what is possible versus what is probable based on what we've experienced up until now, that's a very exciting place to be. However, it can also be a very terrifying place to be. And so, just thinking in terms of the chakras and what they I don't know if represent is the right word, but what they're connected to in terms of life experience and levels of consciousness. then I think that, you know, living in the question and asking questions and being open to being wrong, to learning something new, to being challenged, that's a lot of what our experience is about, so that we can keep growing and we can keep becoming, in your words, more energy rich.
Mhm. I can't speak for anyone else but myself, but I do know that, I'm one of those people who is constantly pushing consciousness, but I have horses in my life that keep me in the physical realm, in the 3D realm. And so I'm pushing and I'm grounding, I'm pushing, I'm grounding. And I'm doing this daily. And so when you said it can get really scary when you ask questions, sure can, when you're not grounded.
Yeah,
absolutely. But the more grounded you are in presence, more grounded you are in who you are, and your connection to the earth and to animals, or whatever your connection is to the physical realm, then it gets less scary. It gets more fun. It gets exciting. It gets that energy of possibility. It's connected to hope. It's connected to inspiration. It's connected to bliss. And I know for myself that I get to enjoy that because I stay grounded. I stay grounded.
I love the way you just said that. Being able to enjoy the energy of possibility and that expansion because you stay grounded. That's that's, I think, something that we haven't talked about very much on our show with the guests that we've had so far. And so thank you very much for bringing up that point, because that harmony, that balance, that interconnectivity, and that relationship between the two, that's what allows us to just become more whole, again and again and again, from this moment to the next, to the next, to the next. Honey Munch, do you have anything else to add before we start to wrap things up?
A quick question, maybe. I hope it's quick. Is there a connection between the 7 chakras and music? Like, there's like 7 notes and then it goes to the next level, right? The octave, right? So has anyone talked about that you know of?
There's a connection to the 7 chakras to everything on the planet. But yes, there certain musical tones attune the chakras. And that's why, drumming and those bowls, I don't know what it's called, is very expansive for people because of the music. And that's why, even if you're not into chakras, you're not into energy, most people are moved by music. They feel inspiration, they feel emotions, they feel connectivity, because music can align with us in such an intricate way. And it's what binds us and connects us, because we can relate through song and through word and music and tones, but also our bodies become alive. And when we're coming alive, means everything's opening, expanding. So music is strongly connected to our chakras, as are certain scents, as are different words and tones in our words. I mean, there is so much happening within our conscious that we're not even aware of most of the time. Thank goodness, because our brains would be overwhelmed, right? But the subconscious is very much tuned into all of this stuff. This is why it's so powerful. And so music is very healing, but it's also what connects us, which is what's so wonderful about music.
Awesome.
So on that note, okay, that came out, no pun intended, pun intended, maybe, is, could then if you know what music and how music and chakras correlate, could you then perhaps discover where which chakra is maybe blocked, if there's by the way you respond to a certain type of music, that would, if the chakra were open, be attuned to that chakra? Like if someone, like you mentioned drumming. I mean, that's drumming and rhythm is always something that I have always, since a little kid, just like absolutely loved and resonated with. And there's just something about a beat and a rhythm and that just like really, really, gets me going and can also calm me. But like I think of my mom, or me, like with opera. Opera for me is, even though my parents both like absolutely love opera and I grew up listening to opera, it's not for me. It's not something that just, and some of it can even get my back up. Could that be a signal that, maybe, or if someone hears a certain tone or something, could that be an indication that a chakra that is associated with that tone, that there's some kind of discord in there?
Wow. Okay. Another loaded question. So yes, 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 yes. So in your situation, if you're getting your back up, then you have a subconscious belief that's running in the background. It's active. And then when hears that music, you're having a physiological response. You're not thinking for your body to have a response, right? It's just automatic. So that's a subconscious thing. Is it impacting one of your chakras? Hard to know. Mm-hmm. It could just be that your subconscious mind is saying, no, I don't resonate with this. Yeah. Doesn't mean it's bad or good, or it's just indifferent. It's just you're not resonating with it, unless you actually have an emotional response with that, your back coming up, because then there's actual some healing that needs to happen there. But yes, music. So I respond amazing to music, meaning I get uplifted and alive and excited, but I don't have a musical bone in my body, never have. That's not my journey. That's not my relationship with energy. I have a different gift. Mine is I work with 23 different energies, and I'm so attuned to all those different frequencies and what they do and how they do that. And you can't hear it with your ears. You can't touch it, but I'm attuned to it. And so that's how I use frequency, vibration. It's not coming in terms of music, but it's still a vibration. And I use that with the work that I do, and I can sense what that energy is doing to different chakras. But in the big picture thing, it's not that much different than music, because music's also a vibration. Everything's a vibration, right? And so those people who are musically inclined and have that gift, they can heal people using music, if that's what they're here to do. And you see that people go into concerts and they have complete healings because that's the power of music. Just a question of, where's your gift? What do you align with? What resonates with you? And how can you use that to create change and energy rich? How can you help people be energy rich? So for you, if drumming's your thing, then allow it to show you and teach you and train you. How can you help people with that? And how can you help yourself with that? Because you resonate with it. One is not better than the other. It's just, I have a strong relationship with these frequencies, and that nobody taught me or trained me. And I work with them every single day, all day long, and my relationship expanding more and more. It's no different with somebody who's doing music and perfecting that art, right? It's still a vibration, and it's powerful, and it's exciting. That's what makes us all unique and different.
Wow. Right on. Thank you. Mahoney, anything you want to finish off with before we move into our next segment?
No, I really appreciate the talk, though. Thank you. Yeah. Want to carry on?
Oh, and so does Mercury. She just looked towards the camera, yawned, and
yeah.
Our cat is lying on the couch behind Glenn, for those of you who can't see, and she's so cute. Okay, so I'm going to grab my phone. And we are moving into a quick segment to just lighten things up. Not that they have been dark and heavy at all. But yeah, we're moving into the super rapid fire question round. This is when Glenn takes the reins and he will bombard our guest, Angela Strank, with questions for 1 minute. And honey, much remember, super rapid fire.
Yeah.
And Angela, all we ask is just answer off the top of your head. No contemplation or deep thought, just whatever comes to mind right away. It's just a fun, cute little way for people to get to know you a little bit better.
Perfect.
I'm going to.
And for enduring this, you get a prize, which is me reading to you. So.
Okay.
Yeah, the prize is always in quotation marks because it's not a tangible thing that you get in the mail. Okay, so are you ready, Mahoney?
Yes.
All right, ready, set, go.
Okay, do you sing to Elvis?
Yes.
Okay, now which do you prefer, solitude or dinner parties?
Solitude.
Salty or sweet?
Salty.
Rain or snow?
Snow.
Dragonflies or ladybugs?
Ladybugs.
Exercising the body or the mind?
Oh, equal.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Working with new clients or longtime clients?
Equal.
Cats or dogs?
Equal.
Asking for help or going it alone?
Asking for help.
Fire or water?
Equal.
Walking on the beach or in the forest?
Forest.
Music or books?
Music.
Spring or autumn?
Spring.
Ding,
Okay.
ding, 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 ding. Okay, Mahoney, why don't you tell Angela what she's won?
Oh, that was like the best answer session. That was great. There was
That was,
no
yeah, that was the most questions
just
too, right?
equal. Okay, so this is from the book by Richard Wagamese, which is a collection of his writings.
Nice.
He wrote Indian Horse and a beautiful book called Embers Meditations. This is what comes from spirit on the subject of skin. I'll read the second part of it because it's a little long. He said, I think about elders when I think about skin. I think about the wonderful roadmap of experience and story and teaching that resides in each wrinkle and line on their faces. I think about things like pride and spirituality and cultural strength. I think about their wisdom. I think about the tremendous resources they are, the free and open university of their experience with a tuition based on the cost of a question. I think about babies when I think about skin. I think about the smell of them, all soapy and clean, and how warmth has a smell too when you concentrate. I think about innocence and immense possibility. When you hold a baby close to you, that's the promise their skin holds. They bless you when you feel their skin. They are the closest beings to Creator, and they give you that proximity when you hold them. I think about touching when I think about skin. I think about the fact that our first physical act when we're born is reaching out, the desire to touch someone. I think how powerful that is. I think about what Creator gave us with that first instinct. Our primal instinct is to reach out, to belong, to be accepted, to be where love exists. So I think about unity when I think about skin. I think how important it is that we all share that first deliberate act of reaching out. We reach out in innocence without fear or judgment to touch another because it's our strongest desire. How great it would be if we could remember that every day.
Wow, that was beautiful. Very fitting. So
Yeah.
we're talking about the ups and the downs, the small picture, the big picture, and that's all encompassing babies and elders.
Well, that's what I was called to read to you today. So
That's great. Thanks for sharing.
thank you. Thank you for your openness and helping us focus too on the details that help us. Yeah.
Mhm. Richard Wagamese, you've read from him many, many times on this show, and I have used his readings in many of my meditations and some of my talks. He's a favorite here. Angela, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was such a rich conversation, and I I can't believe it, but I'm on my 7th page of notes, if you can believe it. So if people wanted to learn more about you, get in touch with you, access some of your meditations, where can they go?
My website, angelastrank.com. So it's ANGELASTRANK.com. And on my website, you can see my blog that has my energy rich meditations and my content. I also have a YouTube channel just under my name, Angela Strank, Academy of Dreams. And then I have a Facebook page called Academy of Dreams with Angela Strank. And yeah, you can contact me directly, or you can contact one of my support staff. I have 2 people that are on my team, and they'd be happy to connect with you and answer any questions and just kind of get to know you a little bit. It's nice having a team, that's for sure.
That's amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will put a slide up once I get this edited so that people who are watching have a visual as well. And then if you do access this on YouTube or a podcast somewhere, then there will be a write-up, and that information with links will be in the write-up as well. So Angela, thank you. This has been such an amazing conversation. I know that we could keep talking, but I also know that, there's a little bit of a time element here today. So I just really appreciate your openness, all of the information that you gave us, all of your insights about energy and expansion and connecting. And I really, really, really appreciate you talking about your relationship with Elvis, your relationship and connection with horses, because that to me was just such an amazing image and sort of parallel or metaphor for what we go through as human beings, as in our relationships, and how we are continually opening up to a greater, more powerful, more beautiful, more harmonious expression of who and what we are. So thank you to you as well, dear listener, or watcher, however it is that you're engaging. This has been another episode of Who Do You Think You Are? My name is Lasia. I have been your host. And as always, my co-host has been Mr. Glenn Sheridan. And we are so delighted and so grateful to have had Angela Strank with us today. Amazing conversation, just richness, energy, connection, infinite possibilities, expansion, all of it. So check out Angela's website, check out her Facebook page, check out her YouTube channel, and get in touch with her if you want to learn more about her. We look forward to seeing you and connecting with you again in another couple of weeks or so. That's it for today. Bye for now.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been an episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lasia Kohut, and I have been your host. My co-host has been Glenn Sheridan. We'd like to thank the following for helping make this podcast a reality. Today's special guest, Angela Strank. Music, Vasco Lorenco, copyright 123rf.com. Background illustration, Sakma Sterke, copyright 123rf.com. For more information on this podcast and our Lasia Kohut Soul Excavator, please visit www.lasiakohut.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what you just heard. We invite you to like, subscribe, and or let us know by leaving a comment. Thanks for tuning in to Who Do You Think You Are?